Agent of F.O.X.G.L.O.V.E, Ingobnito by Lark Sabre. Read by Lark Sabre. Chapter 22. Lunch at Lefty's, Part 3. Keep cool, Agent Hobby, thought Hunter, nodding along as Lefty resumed his lecture on the history of the 5 gob mobs. Where is that blimmin' walkie-talkie? His question was then answered in the worst possible manner. Say again, Agent Hobby, we can't make out what you're saying, over. It was a transmission from F.O.X.G.L.O.V.E, loud and clear and bold as brass, in the middle of the Licino's hovel. What were Deep Sea playing at? And where was that walkabout walkie-talkie anyway? What in the name of Francis Ford Coppola was that? Exclaimed Lefty, torn from his absorption in the sound of his own voice by another, a crackly and conspicuous one he didn't recognize, a speaker from out of the ether. Hunter didn't know who Francis Ford Coppola was, but he assumed it was some famous historical goblin, as long gone as Bogsy Sigil and King Oddbin. Goblin history was the least of his concerns right now.
It's the Gambino, little Lonnie. Oh, Lefty, the little gobbykins has spoken his voice words,
squealed Loretta, who had been watching Lonnie as he goofed around on the floor, which was somehow greasy yet sticky, as if polished with hair gel. Lonnie was throwing shapes with his hands in the way toddlers and gobblers, goblin toddlers, do alike, familiarizing themselves with the fact they do indeed possess hands, intrigued by their responsiveness. Hunter couldn't imagine Loretta's doppelganger brother squealing like that, though it gave Hunter the shudders to think that somewhere within the jaundiced jelly of her Brasco blubber, Loretta Licino had a feminine side. What did he say? Inquired Lefty, still dubious as to the source of the unknown voice.
He was just a goigling and a drooling, sucking on his little gobby fist when he said, "We can't make out what you're saying, over." Ah, who's a clever gobbykins?
Cooed Loretta.
Well, what does the little goonbots mean by that? Is that kid spraining my sprouts already?
Asked Lefty petulantly.
Don't you go calling my Gambino a goonbots, Lefty Licino. He must have picked up some gob cop speak from that movie I saw on the gob box starring that Gobgoozalonga Ryan Gobling. Ah, my little Gambino's gonna grow up to be Mota Capello, a regular Ryan Goblin Jr. Better looking than his papa, that's for sure. Hopefully not a gob cop, though. My brother chased them out of Little Whiffley a long time ago.
As Loretta upbraided Lefty for his lack of the paternal niceties, Hunter quickly put 2 and 2 together and realized that Lonnie Licino, the blasted little rascal, must have pickpocketed Hunter's pocket whilst he was finding excuses not to munch his gobsnot pizza. Godbers were born crooks. He sidled over to the Licino Gambino whilst Lonnie's parents were bickering, and said out loud, as if he was comforting Lonnie, "There's no problem here, over." Then he put his fingers around the Gambino's slobbery fist, and sure enough felt the thin, tubular form of the walkie-talkie, though of course he couldn't see it. He snatched it from Lonnie and shoved it in his pocket with one semicircular snaking of his arm. Lonnie started bawling again.
Now look what you done, Loretta. You's got the little goonbotsu grizzly again. What will you gargantuan hollering kazoo?
Yelled Lefty at his wife and picked up his son. Loretta, torn between continuing the row because Lefty had yet again called Lonnie a goonbots and letting it go, consoled by the fact Lefty was showing one of the kids some attention for once, opted for the latter and switched back to hostess mode.
I'm sorry about all this, Joey. Yous must think you walked into the middle of a gang war, eh?
Loretta apologized as Lonnie stopped howling and instead spewed something yet another new and interesting shade of sputumy green down the back of Lefty's tunic. Forget about it, replied Hunter, making a winning show of friendly tolerance. Look, Lefty, I better be going. My girlfriend is expecting me back at the abandoned power station.
No, that's okay. Look, keep that Bugsy to get home, seeing as you's running with the Mombolinos now. Gobbert De Niro's ghost. I nearly forgot the reason yous came here. Loretta, take the kid. Joey, I'll see you to the door. Okay, but don't be too long, you hear, Lefty Licino. You're down that club with my brother every night of the week. So tonight you're helping Princess Ooze with her homework on King Oddbin, seeing as you can't stop flapping your gums about him. Nice to meet you, Joey. You treat that little girlfriend of yours right, you hear? And yous let my old man show you the ropes, capiche? He might have lost his looks, but my brother wouldn't keep him around if he was a total empty tunic goonbots.
Loretta said, caustically emphasizing the last word as she went from smiling at Joey to scowling at her husband. Lefty smiled weakly and thrust Lonnie back into his mother's arms like the pair of them were playing pass the parcel with the bawling, barfing, bat-eared Gambino. Though Lonnie was quite cute for a goblin, Hunter had to admit, he reminded Hunter of the Chase variant Funko Pop of Gizmo from Gremlins as a gremlin rather than a Mogwai, or a feral Baby Yoda, though a shade greener, taking after his father. Hunter and Lefty walked through the saloon doors of Casa Lucchino, and the two of them stood conspiratorially outside Lefty's hovel as the doors were still swinging to a standstill. There was a lot of standing around conspiratorially when you were a gangster.
Here you are, Joey. There's your piece. That's a quality hooter huffer. It'll bring a fairy tumbling to the ground like a conqueror in a dress. You can square up with me after the job. You can pay me back with a pair of them cool big city shades you're always wearing. Lefty Lucchino wants some of that big city Ritz. Gonna need it once we hit the big time when that godfather's got us all straightened out. Maybe Sharona would be calling me handsome too in a pair of them, eh? You know it, Joey P. Old Lefty's got your back.
Lefty handed the promised hooter huffer over to Hunter. To be fair, it was a quality piece, as far as Hunter could discern. Well, it looked newish, and wasn't bunged up with some other gobster's boogers. To Hunter, it looked just like a pea shooter, but one you stuck up your hooter. And in effect, that was precisely what a hooter huffer was. He wondered if F.O.X.G.L.O.V.E would let him practice with it at the wand-waving firing range. Probably not. He sincerely hoped he'd never be in a position where he had to shoot one of his fairy colleagues with it to maintain his cover. Thanks, Lefty. Yeah, I'll ask around at the abandoned power station to see who's selling sunglasses at the moment. So I guess I'll see you tomorrow at... Levitating leprechauns, thought Hunter, with what must have been about his 27th stark realization of the day. I've got school tomorrow. I won't be able to rendezvous with the fairies or the goblins until I'm home, and then Mum won't let me play in the garden for long at that time.
Moonrise, Joey, moonrise. Me and the boys will meet you in Braddock's Meadow at moonrise. We don't want no humokes getting a load of us sneaking through their gardens to the Damselfly dump, do we? And that way we got the element of surprise when we hit the fairy dust bank, capiche? Not that we need it with our bugsies.
Moonrise, pondered Hunter. Well, it solves the school problem, but I can't go out that late. I'll have to talk to Agent Wildflower about how I'm going to get out of the house so near bedtime. Looks like Mum and Dad are going to be joining Jerop in the garden tomorrow night. Hopefully Scoldy won't pee on their stalks. Yep, Moonrise will be gobtastico, Lefty. Goodbye till then, and thanks for all your help.
Forget about it, crazy Joey. Just get me a pair of them Gobbo Guido shades one day, eh? Right. I better go in, or Loretta will spray my sprouts from now till the day little Lonnie gets his gubbin. Moonrise, capiche?
With a final tiresome gabiche, Hunter made his way hurriedly back through the Donnydigs and Shinbrooks of wild and down at heel Little Whiffley. He never got any aggro from other gobbos. They'd no doubt seen him knock around with Lefty, so knew Joey Pumpkins had been vouched for. He wouldn't know the rules of the goblin card games, or other goblin etiquette, if etiquette could be said to be the word, even if he did want to linger, which he didn't. Besides, the longer he spent with the Godbers, the more chance there was he'd do something to accidentally blow his cover. He nipped through the gap in the bricked-up sewer wall, and was relieved to be away from the prying gimlet eyes of goblins and their mean and feral lives. Any creatures who thought eating 6 fairies in a row was funny couldn't really be very nice, even if they were sometimes hospitable to their own kind, or those they thought were their own kind. He walked a little way down the tunnel by the faint light of his hand-me-down Bogsy, the one with the all-important anti-Bogsy inserted somewhere within it by Dr. Squirrel-O's side, fingered his trouser pocket, and fished out the invisible walkie-talkie by tactility alone. Again, without visual cues, he located the star-shaped receiver end of the walkie-talkie and whispered into it discreetly, hyper-aware he was still in Gobbo country. Calling Agent Wildflower, this is Agent Hobby, requesting pickup, over. Roger that, came the disembodied voice through the imperceptible device. This is Agent Wildflower. What was all that gurgling about, Agent Hobby, over? It wasn't me, Agent Wildflower. It's a long story. I'll tell you on the trip back. I just want to go home and reassure myself my brother isn't wilting, or worse, over. Within seconds, Hunter heard the same zh, splish, splish, splinkle he'd been overjoyed to hear the day before at this same spot and juncture. Again, arising from the diarrheal depths of the sewer stream, was the Roadster 2000, in an amphibious mode. Hunter was well aware of this time, but still impressed by. Hallelujah and hooray! Once the Roadster was again floating atop the fetid flow like a spotty boat, the familiar white-wart passenger door revolved open, and there sat the ever-welcome form of his foxglove handler, Agent Stella Wildflower. "How about you tell me that long story in the drive back to your garden, Agent Hobby?" asked Agent Wildflower, with a wry smile and a wry nod. Hunter grinned like a labubu underneath his $3.99 mask and dived into the inviting, well-lit interior of the roadstool.